So you walk into Walmart and you're shopping for, let's say, baking items, because it's the holiday season. And a few hours over, you hear this screaming little boy. You don't know what's going on. And when you get to that aisle, they're still there. The parents aren't doing anything about it. You don't understand how the parents couldn't do a thing about their screaming little boy. This little boy is experiencing something called sensory overload. All the senses that are going around him, all the sounds, all the sights, all the smells, they're all just overwhelming him. And the parents can't do anything about it because they can't reduce the number of stimulants that he is feeling. So they're doing all that they can. My purpose today is to inform you about what sensory overload is, and what it's been connected with, and what it feels like to be in sensory overload. As some of you know, I do have some sensory issues of my own, and with the information I have collected for my speech, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of what sensory overload is. And I hope you take away from this kind of what goes on around you that you don't really know about. So I'm going to start with what sensory overload is. Sensory overload is part of sensory processing disorder, which I will abbreviate as SPD. With SPD, the sensory signals in your brain kind of get mixed up and will sometimes go to the wrong places. And with sensory overload, there's just too many going in for this person to figure out what's going on. And it presents itself in many different ways. Some people have issues like they don't have things to feel to them on their skin, like the seams or the tags, and their parents will have to order special clothing for them without seams and without tags. And so that's one way it presents itself. And they could just be clumsy, so there's a problem with that. I'm going to go with what's been connected with. One major set of disorders that sensory SPD has been associated with is the autism spectrum disorders. There's the two main ones that are autism and Asperger's syndrome. And the people that have these disorders, the way that these disorders present themselves is very different with everyone. So it's a case-by-case thing. A lot of people with ADHD have sensory processing disorders, and they'll just be kind of misdiagnosed and just thrown with ADHD and moved on. They won't take time to try to figure out what's actually wrong with them. Surprisingly enough, people with fibromyalgia have sometimes had problems with sensory disorders because it's just, that's the way their bodies are, it doesn't work for them. Many people never outgrow SPD, but they learn how to manage their symptoms enough that they can function normally. I'm going to move on to what it kind of feels like, and this can get a little loud. I don't have it very loud on my computer, so hopefully it won't be a huge problem. So the parents with this little boy are walking into Walmart, and you know that buzzing, and it starts to get louder and louder and louder as they get into the store. And that's all he's hearing, that's all he's feeling, and he just can't handle it. There's a lot more in the clip, but it's all that same buzzing. And since, as I informed you earlier, there are many ways that the SPD presents itself. And the ways I said earlier are more common. There are some really random ways. And I found this article, and it was this mom writing about her little girl and how her little girl had sensory processing disorder, and she couldn't explain what her daughter was feeling. And one day, this happened. She was bouncing around the house, extremely hyper, and I was trying to get her to stop. She turned to me and said, "I can't help myself, Mom. My brain feels tricky, and my heart beats really fast." And the mom really had an epiphany feeling because her daughter had just explained what she had been feeling, what she couldn't explain to her daughter. So that's kind of what it feels like from that side, without having a lot of details from that. And my purpose today was to inform you about sensory processing disorder and sensory overload, what it has been connected with, what it is, and what it feels like. And one thing with what you want to take away is you don't know the whole story of what's going on in those people's heads. You don't know everything. So don't assume that those parents aren't doing all that they can for their child.